Our next inductee is Mr. Bill Murtoff. Representing Bill today is his friend Sam Edwards, a longtime friend of his, and his stepson, Carl Heisen. But we're also honored to have one other person that's going to speak with us today. One of the most seasoned competitors that I know, and a longtime friend of Bill's, Mr. Harold Graves. It's a special honor for me to be able to introduce Harold, as he was one of the first pilots that I met when I started ballooning 25 years ago. Back then, I had no idea about competing at all, and Harold was really the first real competitor that I met. I think unknowingly, he taught me a lot. At that time, he was flying the Augsburger beer balloon, and he was known for having an all-girl crew. I was single at the time, so I was always made sure I knew how to make my way to his truck after the flight. Harold has also become a mentor to me, as well as quite the inspiration for me. He has overcome much adversity in recent years and still loves to fly as much now as he did when I first met him 25 years ago. Now, Harold came to know Bill through the competitive circuit. Many people don't know this, but Harold's wife, Mary, was one of Bill's crew members for years. Mary crewed for Bill. It was through Bill that Harold met her while she was crewing for him. Knowing Bill, I'm sure that even now, he probably never forgave Harold for stealing one of his best crew. So it's my real pleasure to introduce Harold Graves.
Thanks, Ken. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Sam Edwards, who's going to talk to us more about Bill. Sam's love for aviation began when he was about 10 years old. His family rented out a room to a couple of Navy waves at the time. And their boyfriends were naval aviators. And of course, they wanted to show the kid around, so they took him to the Corpus Christi Air Station and let him sit in the airplane. And Sam got hooked on aviation. He also was in the Sea Scouts and did some sailing, so he learned a little about wind. Sam went to high school in Corpus Christi, and then he graduated from Texas A&M as a mechanical engineer. And the day after he graduated, he joined the Army, married his wife, Jean, and they lived in Houston and had 2 daughters, Cheryl and Denise. Many of you know Cheryl as Sherry White. They both became balloon pilots as well. He started working in Houston as a sales engineer, and after a few years, he made enough money for flying lessons. Got his fixed-wing license in 1966, his lighter air rating in 1975. He first came to the Indianola to compete in the Nationals in 1976. And he was on the U.S. World Team 3 times, once in England and twice up in Battle Creek. Bill was active with the Balloon Federation of America and the Houston Balloon Pilots Association. He also served as the vice president for the BFA. He's now retired in Austin, Texas, with his lovely wife Jean, and they operate a small ride business down there. Sam Edwards, my good friend, proud father, great balloonist, and great ambassador for ballooning.
Thank you, Aaron. Well, I guess I'm the youngest here, excluding his son. But I'm getting, Bill he was an unusual guy. I'm sure most of you all know that. He was born in Chicago in 1934, so he preceded me by a year. He went to high school at Ray High School in Corpus, and his picture in a football uniform is back there, less the beard. And then he went to Delmar Junior College and spent 3 years serving in the U.S. Army. He then became a roofing contractor and operated a small surfboard shop on Padre Island, Texas. And he saw a balloon in an article somewhere and says, boy, if I got one of those, I could really bring them into my surfboard shop as advertisement. So he bought a Picard balloon. He drove all the way to California, picked it up, came back to Texas all the way nonstop. He did grueling things. And then he had someone teach him how to fly the balloon, which he didn't know how. And then he discovered that on Padre Island, which is right on the coast, the wind blew all that didn't make a very good advertising vehicle for him. So anyway, he decided that maybe he needed to do something else to do ballooning. And there were a couple of gentlemen in Houston that got a hold of him and said, we want to buy a balloon. And he said, okay. And so he sold them each a balloon. And they said, now we want you to teach them how to fly. So he moved to Houston at that time. He taught both of these guys how to fly. And he rented some property, about 10 acres, I think it was. And he called it Rainbow's End Balloon Corps. And that was the start of ballooning in Houston. He was the one that started it. And he was having an event one weekend, and my youngest daughter Denise said, Daddy, would you take me out to watch the balloons this weekend? And I said, sure. So we went out Friday night, we watched the balloons. There were about 6 of them, I guess. And after that flight, we went home and said, boy, that was fun. Let's go out that Saturday morning. So we went Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning. And Sunday afternoon, I was there, and this girl came up and said, I've seen you out here all weekend. Would you be interested in helping form a hot air balloon club? I said, sure. So I gave her my name and telephone number. Next week, I got a call and said, well, we're having a meeting. And so I went to the meeting, and Bill was running the show, as he did many times. And he gave us a rundown on how many clubs had started off with ballooning, and they'd buy a balloon, and they'd all fly it. And then when it was just all gone to destruction, they had no money to fix it, and so the club disbanded. So he had some ideas where we're going to fly the balloon and pay enough money to put money in to fix it and, buy replacement balloons and stuff. And so I called my wife that night and I said, well, we decided to form a balloon club, and we ordered the balloon. I had to buy 2 shares, and Bill bought 2 shares to where he'd have enough money to order this balloon. He took the card, and I said, and I'm elected president. So I got on top real quick. But anyway, we got the club, and Bill started he was training this girl who had come up and got my name. So she had an interest in finding people that were interested in the club. And so we got the balloon, and we ended up with about 35 people that were owner members of this balloon club. It was called Tejas Aeronauts, so Bill was responsible for that. And then after we all got our licenses, we began to kind of dwindle out and start getting our own aircraft. And eventually we disbanded the club. We had 3 balloons, which we sold. We had lots of money in the bank, which we divided. And so it was a very successful balloon organization. And we couldn't have done it without him thinking about doing it. I met Bill one time. The first time I met Bill, I was an outside salesman. I was driving across Houston. I saw this balloon going across the sky, and I followed it. And finally, I caught up with it out in the country, and there's 2 more cars following too. And we were standing on this road, and he started approaching us. And as he got close enough, he says, "Hey, y'all stop me!" And he threw down a rope. So we all grabbed the rope, and we finally got him stopped after he drug us about 50 feet. And there was a row of small trees, and he penduled them over it and down on the ground, and the balloon deflated. And so out comes this guy in yellow and blue knickers, and a funny hat, and a long gray beard, and a white beard, and long hair. He says, "Is anybody hurt?" And I said, "No, there's nobody hurt." And I said, "What country did you come from?" And he looked at me, a little straight-faced, and he says, "I took off in Memorial Park." he didn't like my humor. But anyway, it's I've lost myself here, pardon me. I'm old, not as old as most of the people here, all except for his son. And none of the audience counts. Bill, he decided to make it a lasting organization, and we formed the club, and we came up with very innovative things, like we were proud supporters of SAL, which is an organization called Save Our Women. But in closed meetings, there was superiority over women. And Bill always said that, you know, the sky is blue because God wanted men to fly.
Yeah.
That's changed over the years now. There's lots of women pilots and good ones. Then to him, a woman passenger was a pillow to land with on the highway of the Anyway, he was a very unusual person. I'm sure those of you that knew him thought the same. Let me get my page. Do without it. Eric. One of Bill's past things that he really relished was eating lots of food. And as long as it was cheap or free, he really loved that. He was vice president of the BFA he was on the board of BFA in 1980-81. He was vice president one of those years. And at the 1986 championships, the people in charge of the championships resigned en masse. And so Bill says, well, I'll run. And so he had some innovative tasks that nobody had even heard of before, but he was going to make ballooning fun for everyone. And so anyway, one of the tasks that everybody really remembers was that was when the Comstocks were around and a whole bunch of good pilots. And so they passed out the task sheets and everybody went out to fly to the place on the map. And so about half, they took off and all of them started off and some of them went this way and some of them went that way. And nobody said, well, you know, what's happening here? Well, what Bill had done is he had given the top competitors a set of coordinates to fly to, and everybody else got a different set. Well, by the time it was all over, there were about half of them went to the ones that the Comstocks and the other people were at. So they were a little bit shocked when they found out that they weren't supposed to go there. But that was just one of the things that he had, one of his fun events. He went to the first Albuquerque event that they ever had, and he went to all the others until I think through 1986, I believe, was his last year. There's a baggie on the wall back there that was the last baggie he threw that Al Muir retrieved, and he's going to put it. It's going to be in the museum here. He was the first in Albuquerque. He started selling T-shirts and pins, and now of course there's lots of them. But we always said that he had the T-shirt shop because that way he could always get a clean T-shirt. Some of which he dirtied by eating all the food he ate. All in all, he was a great guy, and I'm sure that he's having fun where he is now. He married Mary, and they went to Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, and he was even ballooning down there after he went down there, and then he keeled over one day, and he was gone. And now Mary has passed away too, and Mary's son Carl is here with us today too. And thank y'all for your time. Well, that was called Super Truck, and I'm not sure what year it was, but it just kept running and running. The dashboard was completely filled with strikers, tools, tongues that he had, because when he taught somebody, he got real nervous. And but we were going to send it up here to the museum, but somehow that got derailed, and I think it finally rusted away in the field. But Super Truck was a good truck.
Well, they had a race over Lake Michigan, lifting off from the park in Chicago, and he had no crew, but they were going to fly out over the lake, and I said, well, I'll drive your pickup truck. He said, you can't, you don't know what gear.
Yeah, sometimes he'd have to get out and get under there and move the levers by hand to get it going. But yeah, that was something else. One of the things when I forgot when I was learning to fly from Bill, we would go out and we would fly. We'd take off in Rainbow's End, go fly, and we land, and then he would hitchhiked back to go get the truck while I packed the balloon. And he never got back until that balloon was in the bag. I accused him of hanging out about a quarter mile away till he saw it was in the bag.
And he came up to Winter Carnival one year, and he was wearing sneakers and socks. Now the socks he knit himself, and he was the character. And he.
I just have a few comments here, a few memories. Good afternoon. His Bill's stepson, the Hall of Fame has asked me just to take a couple minutes to share a few personal memories of my early life with Bill. Before I do so, I want to personally thank again the Hall and all of Bill's friends and others who worked so hard to honor Bill with this very special award recognizing him of his accomplishments in ballooning. The first time I met Bill was on the afternoon of March 30th, 1975, when my mom and I took our first balloon flight. I was just 12, and my mom, Mary, had, after attending a continuing education course, I think it was at the University of Houston, she decided to take lessons with Bill in order to get her pilot's license. We had a blast. It was absolutely amazing. If you guys could ever, I know you all had your first flight, but I'll never forget mine. It was amazing to even see, to go on one and actually see it inflate and to fly. We flew over, I think, over to the memorial area, and it was a pretty amazing experience for a little 12-year-old. From this point on, throughout my teen years, my mom and I would be out at Bill's place, Rainbows in Balloonport, flying every weekend, crewing and chasing balloons. It was a great time to grow up, and later Bill and Mom would get married, but it all started with that flight in 1975 in this balloon called Trade Winds. As the years passed, Bill became more a part of my life, aside from ballooning, not just as a dad or a stepdad, but as a friend, and I truly think he understood at the time. That's what I needed most in life, was a friend. And together with my mom, we shared the love of movies, restaurants, and following the local Houston sports teams, even though this often brought great frustration. City sports fan knows that's from Houston. As a friend, he couldn't resist also giving his 2 cents about my dating relationships. As my wife Trish can attest to, especially the more outlandish comments that Bill was famously known for.
Eating dinner without a shirt on.
You imagine her.
You didn't have to wash them then.
He was amongst friends, family. One of the fondest memories I have of Bill, though, is when the two of us traveled together from Houston to Iowa for the Nationals. I think it was back in '77 or '78. We drove in the unair-conditioned super truck all the way from Iowa to Houston, taking what he liked to call the scenic route. East Texas to the Ozark Mountains. I was telling Trish, you go to Houston, you take 45, you hit 35, and you just come on up there, and it's you're there in a day or so, whatever, a day and a half. But Bill was never in a hurry. We went through East Texas, the slow way through the Ozark Mountains, and he brought this book along with him called Road Food. And so we would look for these places along the path to stop at. And one of his favorite places, as Sam mentioned, was Arthur Bryant's in Kansas City. Now, I haven't been to Arthur Bryant's in over 30 years, but I can remember the place wasn't much to look at. They even had dogs loose on the inside. But Bill, the barbecue was great, and more importantly, he had found a winner. So along that same trip, I remember the memories of Hank Williams Sr. playing on the 8-track, Bill taking midday cat naps along the way in the back of the envelope and asking me, "Carl, can you fix me some more tea?" No road trip was complete without a jug of water, a plastic tumbler, ice, lots of instant tea. There were good times. They were really good times. Bill and I shared one thing in common, amongst others. We both drove 1970 Chevy pickups. Where we differ was that I was a proud team with this first vehicle, and I would treat my truck to regular washings, and I would love to tinker with the engine, even cleaning the parts where oil had leaked out. To me, an oil leak was a problem. To Bill, on the other hand, he would just say something like, "It's nothing to worry about. Oil keeps the engine from rusting." And he'd just add more oil to Super Truck since he bought it by the case, with any extra quarts under the seat. As a teenager learning to fly, he left most of my instruction to my mom, but I do remember one very important flying lesson he taught me. Actually, he screamed it at me from the ground to this nervous 17-year-old on his first solo flight. "If you burn, you will not come down." To my mom's relief, I landed just fine thanks to Bill and his patient coaching. As we conclude our time honoring and remembering Bill, it is with sadness that neither he nor my mom lived to see this day. If Bill were here, though, I would probably ask him how he ever put up with such an ornery teenager. But I would also thank him for his patient and very thorough training of my mom and me and all of his students. Also, for helping me, for helping me as being a groomsman at my wedding, even though he had to wear a tuxedo. There's a picture of it on the wall. I'm so glad they put that up. It's proof. For helping my mom put me through college, and for lending that same college student a balloon to use at 2 nationals. Best summer breaks ever. Even made the cut both times. Lastly, I would like to thank Bill for being a great husband and caregiver to my mom, especially during her years of illness in Mexico, away from close friends and family. Mom told me on more than one occasion that those years that they spent in San Miguel were some of the best of them, of both. And Bill actually made that happen. He was so supportive of her. So lastly, I'd like to thank Bill and thanks for his loving friendship. Thank you.
I'd like to present this award to you, please. On behalf of the National Balloon Museum and Balloon Federation of America,